Hello class, this will be a quick video, section 5.5, adding and subtracting unlike fractions. This is going to build upon the concepts of least common denominator, LCD, as well as adding and subtracting fractions, which was section 5.4. I believe the majority of you have seen this already from your time before pre-algebra. Let's take a look. Adding and subtracting fractions. To find the sum, that means to add, or difference, that means to subtract. To find the sum or difference of two fractions with unlike denominators, rename the fractions with a common denominator. In other words, the denominators have to be the same. Then add or subtract and simplify. One way to rename unlike fractions before you add or subtract is to use the LCD. So before we add or subtract the fractions, we're going to find the least common denominator. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. I'll work these out for you. Don't pause the video yet. So n equals 3/8 plus 5/6. So perhaps you just know what the LCD is of 8 and 6. That's great. Let's say you don't. 8 and 6, there's a couple different ways to do it. Remember, we can do our factor tree where, I'll do it right here. 8 breaks down to be 2 times 4, and then 4 breaks down to be 2 times 2. 6, this breaks down to be 2 times 3. We then look at the prime factors of 2, 2, and 2, as well as 2 and 3. If you recall, we look for a match. So we get 2, and then all this other stuff gets written down as well. There's a 2 here, the 2 there, and the 3 there. So 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 3 we get 24. So 24 is going to be our least common denominator. Let me show you a different method you could have used to find the least common denominator that probably would have been a little bit easier with these two particular numbers. Okay, the other method is you could have listed out the multiples of 8 and 6. So 8 times 1 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, 16 times 3 is, 8 times 3 is 24. So those are the multiples of 8. Multiples of 6, 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 3 is 18, 6 multiplied by 4 is 24. So here we have a match, 24 and 24. That is going to be our least common denominator. Okay, so if we have 3/8, remember our LCD is 24. Okay, so I need to take 3/8. I'm going to multiply my denominator by something. So our denominator turns into our LCD of 24. So ask yourself, 8 multiplied by what is 24? 8 multiplied by 3 is 24. Now, since I put a 3 in the denominator, what do I have to put in the numerator? A 3. 3 over 3 is 1. So 3 times 3, we get 9/12. Let's do the same thing with 5/6. 5/6. I'm going to multiply this by something so that I have a denominator of 24. 6 multiplied by what is 24? 6 multiplied by 4 is 24. I have to put a 4 in the numerator as well. 5 multiplied by 4, I get 20/24. So now, remember 3/8, that became 9/24. We're adding to that, right? We're adding 5/6, which is 20/24. Remember from last section, we keep our denominator the same. We add the numerators 9 plus 20, we get 29. Now, 29 is divisible by what? Only itself and 1. 29 is prime. So as a mixed number, there is your answer, the sum written in simplest form. However, we can write it as a mixed number if we want to. Sometimes you want to, sometimes you don't. So let me show you how to do that. 24 out of 24, 24, so that's going to be 1, right? So if I take 24 of this 29 here, 29 minus 24, what are we left with? left with 5. So this is going to be 24 24ths plus 5 24ths. As a mixed number, we get 1 and 5 24ths. So here's your answer as an improper fraction. There is your answer as a mixed number. All right, let's take a look at the next one here. We've got a denominator of 5 and a denominator of 2. Multiples of 5. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 4 is 20. I'll keep going if I have to later. Multiples of 2. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. No match yet. 2 multiplied by 3 is 6. 2 multiplied by 4 is 8. 2 multiplied by 5 is 10. So I have a match of 10 and 10. So 10 is my LCD. Least common denominator is 10. We've been finding LCD for weeks now. So again, we're going to take 2/5. We're going to multiply by something so that our denominator is now a 10. 5 multiplied by 2 is 10. And the numerator I multiply by 2 as well. 2 multiplied by 2, I get 4. So 2/5 becomes 4/10. 1/2. I've got to multiply my denominator by something so that the denominator becomes 10. 2 multiplied by 5 is 10. I have to put a 5 in the numerator because 5 divided by 5 is 1. So 1 times 5, I get 5. So 4/10 minus 5/10. We keep our denominator of 10. 4 minus 5 is -1. So we have an answer, a difference of -1/10. There you go. Try these two out on your own. Pause the video now and try these two out on your own. All right, I'm going to let you work these out on your own. This is simple enough. It's a review. You should be able to do these on your own. So if you've not done so, finish these problems out. I'm going to go on to a different type of problem. It's similar but different. Now we have mixed numbers. We are adding or subtracting mixed numbers. With these, you actually don't have to really worry about the whole numbers out front quite yet. So we will address the fractions here, the portions of the mixed numbers that is not the whole numbers, so the fraction portion. So 1/8 and 4/9. So again, there's a couple ways we can do this. I can look at the multiples of 8 and 9. I can do my factor tree. I'll do the factor tree just to show you how it's done. So that's 2 times 4. 4 is 2 times 2. 9 is just 3 times 3. We got 2 times 2 times 2. 3 times 3. I've got no matches at all. So it's going to be all this written down. Remember 2 times 2 times 2, that was 8, right? So I could write down 2 times 2 times 2, or I could just write down 8 if I wanted to. I could write down 3 times 3 as well, or I could just write down 9. So our LCD is going to be 9 times 8, which is 72. So 72 is going to be our LCD here. All right, so 1/8. We're going to multiply that by something so that our denominator is 72. 8 times 9 is 72. I've got to put a 9 in the numerator. That becomes 9/72. Same thing with 4/9. I'm going to multiply by something so that I have a denominator of 72. I have to multiply by 8 in the numerator and the denominator. 8 multiplied by 4 is 32. And then we just combine these. 1/8 plus 32 72. No, that's not right. Excuse me, that's not right. Undo that. Scratch that. It's not 1/8. It became 9/72. So let's work that again. Okay. Try that again. excuse me. So 9, well, can't get my pen back. Okay, so 9/70 seconds. So it's going to become 9 plus 32, which is 41/70 seconds. Think about 41, what we can divide by 41. 4 plus 1 is 5, so it's not divisible by 3. 41 is a prime number. So 2 plus 2, we're going to get 4, right? 2, don't forget that part. 2 plus 2, we get 4, and 41/70 seconds. Now, you could also do it like this. 2 and 9/70 seconds plus 2 and 32/70 seconds. 9/70 seconds plus 32/70 seconds is 41/70 seconds. 2 plus 2, we get 4, right? There you go. Let's try another one that's similar to that. 8 3/4 minus 10 7/8. So again, 3/4 and 7/8. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 1 is 8. I've got a match. 8 is going to be my LCD here. So 3/4 multiplied by something is going to be equal to something over 8. 4 times 2 is 8. I've got to put a 2 in the numerator as well. 3 multiplied by 2, I get 6. So 6/8 is what 3/4 becomes. And then 7/8 is already has a denominator of 8. Okay, so here we go. 8 and 6/8 minus 10 and 7/8. Now, as we're here, we have a few different options going forward to solve this. I think the best way to go with this particular problem is to change each of these into an improper fraction. So to do that, remember 8 multiplied by 8, that is 64. So write 8 multiplied by 8 over 8. This is the same thing as 64/8. So this becomes 64/8. And then don't forget the plus 6/8 there as well. So this becomes 70/8 minus, all right, 10 and 7/8. Well, 10 multiplied by 8, 10 multiplied by 8 over 8, this gives us 80/8. So, and if you think about 80 divided by 8, that is 10, right? So this is going to be minus, okay, that's 88 and then 7/8, so it's minus 87/8, right? The 10 was 88, so 7/8 is 7/8, so 87/8. So we get 70/8 minus 87/8, and we are left with negative 17/8. Now, if you recall, 8 over 8 is 1, which would mean 16/8 is 2. So this is the same thing as negative 2, right? If we use 16 of that 17 up, we're left with 1/8. So negative 2 and 1/8 there. Or if you wanted to write it as an improper fraction, negative 17/8. A good habit to get in is estimating this before you start. So 8 3/4, that's about 9, minus 10 and 7/8, that's about 11. 9 minus 11 is negative 2. Are we about negative 2? Yeah, we are about negative 2. So I highly recommend, let's do it on the previous one too. 2 and 1/8, that's 2, plus 2 and 4/9, that's roughly 2, or you might call it 2.5, something like that. So we should have been in the ballpark with 4.5 on that particular problem. So there you go. Let's try a couple more on your own. Here are 2 problems you should try on your own. Pause the video now and try these 2 problems. This will be the end of the video.